So now we're going to apply the soap. And as I mentioned, I'd like to use a hand grater and bar soap because I can see more clearly how much soap I'm putting on and where it is physically located. And so I'm just going to grate as if I'm grating Parmesan cheese. And it's just a light application, not depending on how strong you are. Some people are really strong and it gets like twice as much quantity as I'm getting. So just nice sprinkling of soap, and you want to hit all the areas, including the edges, and just do it in a systematic way to make sure we're covering the entire surface in this light dusting, beautiful amount of soap to give us some lubrication. All right, and I can see that I was a little bit shy on this edge, so I'm going to go back around. And then I like to keep my soap because sometimes there's a lot of water slopping around, so I just put it in a little soap dish. All right, so the soap is now on. So we've got 2 layers of wool plus adornment in yarn and silk and curly locks. And they were laid in vertical and horizontal. And if you were to do 4 layers, then the 3rd layer would be vertical and the 4th layer would be horizontal. So you're always crisscrossing directions. And now I'm going to apply the water. I just use, recycled bottles, and I drill holes into the lid to ease the flow of the water. If you don't have holes in your lid, that's okay. Or if you have one of those spray bottles, it's okay. But you want to just be gentle so that you don't disturb the design as you're putting the water on the piece. And again, I'm going to use a fluid motion, and I'm going to go systematically from one end of this to the other. We'll be able to see if we have enough water or too much. I'll show you how to test that in just a moment. So I'm just dousing the piece with the water, not allowing the force of the water to disturb the design. If by chance the motion of the water has disturbed the design, then I can, of course, go in with my fingers and just make slight adjustments. So now, remember that we'll call it the lid. The top piece of plastic is going to go on next. And we just place that top piece of plastic over our design, and it should match up with the edges of the bottom piece of plastic. And just very gently, without any motion of rubbing, just up and down, I just want you to press all along the plastic so that, remember, these hairs are hollow. We'll find out if in fact we have enough water, too much water, but this is going to allow the water to be absorbed completely into the fibers. So no rubbing, just up and down motion. And I'm going systematically from one corner to the other to allow the water to be absorbed, to check to see if I have enough or too much. And once I get through doing that a couple of times, then I'm going to take my lid off. So the top piece of plastic I'll refer to as the lid. And what I have found is the best way to do it is on the vertical and very slowly, because again, some of these fibers might be sticking to the plastic. So as I'm pulling up this top piece of plastic, you can see my fibers are sticking to it. So just gently with my fingers, I'm going to tap it back down, very gently, slowly. Always my eye is roaming to this edge of the plastic as I'm bringing it off the fibers to make sure nothing's sticking. And if it's sticking, I'm tapping it back in place with my hand. And gently, gently, slowly, slowly, just lifting that top piece of plastic to reveal my design underneath. And if anything is adhered to that top plastic, just gently, lovingly tapping it back down. There we go. So you can see. Now again, I'm going to just place the lid out of my way, but handy because I'm going to be using it again, and I don't want the soap or the grater to get wet. So now I'm looking at this to see if in fact I have enough water or too much. And the answer to that may vary depending on exactly where you are in the piece. So for example, the curly locks. You can see how puffy this still is. That's a technical term, puffy. versus in some other areas when I push my finger, if a puddle forms, then it's too much water. So we just might want to spot check if you have any puffy areas, and we usually tend to put too much on the second round. So just go gentle with the water on the second round and just give some additional moisture in those areas. Check your edges too. Often we overlook the edges. If you have too much water, you'll know because a puddle will form under your finger when you push it into the fibers, or if as you're rolling, excess water comes out from underneath the plastics. So if this happens, no worries, just take a damp sponge or a damp towel and place it gently on top to soak up the extra water. Soap is good. Now we're going to put that lid back on and gently again, just smooth the plastic out, because if there's a fold in the plastic, it can actually create a fold in your fabric. And so as we do this, now I'm going to give us a little head start on this by gentle rubbing. Now, so I'm going to just grate a little bit of soap on top of the plastic, just a little, to give me a little bit of lubrication. And just a little bit of water on the top to aid my hands from moving on it. And I want you to think of this as a baby's butt. Very gently. We're not pushing hard. There's not a lot of force. Just very gently making circular motions, beautiful circular motions, allowing those fibers to start to get to know each other, start to say, hey, 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 neighbor, let's start to connect. You know, I like to think of the barbs on the sheep's wool as another life lesson. You know, it's without barbs, we can't connect. Maybe some of you have friends who they've only been good time friends, and the moment dissonance arises, then they either disappear, ghost you, or aren't being authentic with you. So this is a way of understanding that when dissonance arises, or when barbs arise, that it's when we can vulnerably communicate with each other that true connection can occur. So I've had many years of lessons from the wool, and it's in this act of resolving dissonance that true intimacy occurs. And it's through the magical barbs on the hairs of these sheep that this is going to go from just loose fibers into a fabric. So again, I'm just being very gentle in my motion, not a lot of pressure, not pushing, just gently, 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 just to coax them into place. This will also help keep my design in place as I'm about to roll. When people ask me, you know, does it take a long time? And the answer is yes. Wet felting can take a long time depending on the size of the piece, depending on the thickness of the piece. But it's not, again, a life lesson. It's not about rushing to the end. It's about enjoying the process. So I just want you to luxuriate in that beautiful, soft sensation, being present in the subtlety of the soap and water as we're gently coaxing our fibers to connect and our design to stay in place. So after I've done this for about 5 minutes, now I'm going to start the rolling process. Again, making sure that there are no folds in my plastic.